This episode is brought to you by Experian. Are you paying for subscriptions you don't use, but can't find the time or energy to cancel them? Experian could cancel unwanted subscriptions for you, saving you an average of $270 per year and plenty of time. Download the Experian app. Results will vary. Not all subscriptions are eligible. Savings are not guaranteed. Paid membership with connected payment account required.
Summer is supposed to be an opportunity to slow down, but when you look at your kids, you can't help but notice that your kids are growing up fast. Help them build independence as they grow with Greenlight. Greenlight is a debit card and money app for families, where parents can keep an eye on kids' money habits while kids learn how to save, invest, and spend wisely. It's the easy, convenient way to raise financially smart kids. Get your first month free when you sign up at greenlight.com/Spotify.
Hi, it's Dave here. This is my wife, Kathy.
Hello.
This is the Cinemile. It's the podcast where we walk home from the movies. Today, we're going to see a movie, a big summer blockbuster movie that I don't think anyone saw coming, or I didn't see coming. It's Twisters, the long-awaited sequel to 1997's Twister.
I don't think it's a sequel, though.
It is. It's got an S at the end of it. Just like James Cameron did for Aliens when he pitched it. You write an S after the name of the title in front of the executives, then you turn it into a dollar sign.
That's really clever. Yeah, very clever.
Which is a true thing that James Cameron did when pitching Aliens.
Amazing. No, I haven't been at all waiting for this, but since I heard it was coming, I've been intrigued to see it. I have fond memories of the original Twister movie, albeit I do have to say up front I don't remember it, but I have fond memories of it.
I remember seeing it at the cinema. I have no idea of anything that happened in it except a cow flying past the car.
And there was one big tornado, I believe.
Just one, but this one has multiple ones because there's an S with a dollar sign at the end of it.
So I'm looking forward to it. Daisy Edgar-Jones, I really like her. I think she's very good.
Oh, she's in it?
Yeah, so happy to see her in a movie kind of headlining. And of course the man who's in every movie at the moment, as Hollywood likes to do, Glenn Powell.
Glenn Powell.
Who is very good.
Who's ubiquitous.
Yes.
He is.
Just suddenly in everything though, and it does get when that happens, you're like, wait, but he's in all the movies now.
Yeah, to quote Mean Girls, stop trying to make Glenn Powell happen.
Yeah, it's success. He has.
I think he's happened. Yeah,
I mean, we're big fans, by the way, so it's not a criticism; it's just an observation. So I'll be interested to see them together because she typically, obviously rose to fame during normal people, but she seems to play like very kind of reserved characters, and he plays really out there characters. So I feel like that could work well for them.
Who'd have thought that Sally Rooney's Normal People would produce two of the biggest modern movie stars?
It's amazing. It just shows it was a fantastic show, right? And B, it was fantastically acted. C, it was fantastically directed. All of that.
Yeah.
D,
was that Lenny Abrahamson did that?
He did, yeah. But D was released early days of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And that, along with Tiger King and Love is Blind, it was quite something to behold how much the world
quite a time.
Watched. Yeah.
All we wanted was salacious, weird tiger people and chains hanging around GA jerseys. And
I know someone who moved from India to Ireland because of Normal People. So that is the power. Yeah. That is the power of Normal People.
They must have been so disappointed.
I did apologise now that she's realised all the men don't look like Connell. We are going to watch.
Actually, do. He's got the biggest Irish head on him.
We're going to watch this movie anyway. We love summer blockbusters. It's been out a couple of weeks, so we're a bit slow to watch it. But I've seen kind of mainly positive feedback from our listeners. A little bit mixed, but most of them who've messaged us about it have said they really liked it. A couple said they didn't think it was great.
I'm just surprised that this movie exists. You look at the legasequel slate and you're like, Beetlejuice, yeah, I get that. Bad Boys, yeah. What else? Eddie Murphy, Beverly Hills Cop, yeah. I'm like, Twisters? It's just like it's like they're all big, famous sort of pop culture movies. Twister is like
it was a huge movie though.
And I guess it was big, but it had no pop cultural resonance. And also, what's next? Is Dante's Peaks? Volcanoes?
I think what it has is the studios are sitting around scratching their heads to what can we do over the summer that isn't superheroes, because everyone's over them excepting Wolverine and Deadpool.
I'm happy with that.
Yeah,
something
and they're
different.
We'll do something different, but not quite original.
No, exactly. It still has to be tied loosely into some IP that no one remembers.
And you know, you're going to get like 2 huge stars for it, which they've done really well to cast. So yeah, I'm excited. We're going in now. Actually, it's a bit wet and windy here, so suits the mood, I think, for Twisters.
Yeah. All right, let's give it a go. See you soon.
Bye.
It's Tyler Owens. Calls himself a tornado wrangler. If you feel it, chase it! I said if you feel it, chase it! All right, here we go. Oh, she's perfect!
She's gorgeous.
You thought you could destroy a tornado.
We never had a chance.
You want one? You don't face your fears. You ride them.
Okay, hi, we're back. We've seen the movie Twisters. If this is your first time at the Cinemile, there are no spoilers for the movie Twisters. Or its original Twister, I guess. don't remember enough to spoil. Until, of course, we do get to Spoiler Street, which is on our way home, and we will be warned when the spoilers come. So, Kathy, what did you think of that movie?
So I had a good time. I enjoyed being in the cinema for it. It's definitely one to see on the big screen. I really liked the cast. I enjoyed the setting. I think at times it was a bit lackluster, and at times it was actually very thrilling. Like some of the tornado stuff was really fun. I kind of like the idea that like it's a pandemic, but instead of COVID, it's Twisters. There's just Twisters everywhere, right? You literally cannot get out of bed without bumping into a tornado if you live in Oklahoma. And I actually think that as a concept is quite cool. Glenn Powell was obviously brilliant. Daisy Edgar-Jones was great. It was like if you took her character from Normal People and then you took his character from Top Gun Maverick and you put them in a Twister together. I mean, you can kind of guess what you're going to get, and I mean that as a compliment to both of them because they're so good. Yeah, I enjoyed it all round really, but like by no means do I think it's an amazing movie, and I think just my such creaky vague memories of the original, I feel like the special effects, you know, you mentioned that famous cow shot, they'd have been a bit more visceral, where obviously this side, you know, they're kind of on the CGI side. And also finally when there's like 1,000 twisters.
Sorry, Kathy, are you implying that in 1997 they threw a cow into a tornado for real life?
No, but they would have put a model of a cow into something,
Sure.
a wind machine.
Okay, yeah.
They wouldn't have been CGI. And finally, when there are like 1,000 twisters, they do kind of lose their awe and become a bit run-of-the-mill as the movie goes on. Dave?
Okay, I think this is a bad film,
Right.
but I had great fun with it. It's very entertaining.
Yeah, fair.
But it's not good. It's some things it does really well. I think the twister scenes, I agree with you, are very well executed and thrilling. And a few times I'm like, and we'll talk about it in spoilers, there's some scenes where you really get a sense of like the sheer just trying to survive, trying to cling on to something or find anything to cling on to, and people just being whipped away fast.
Yeah,
like,
that was really
good. The sense of threat of these forces of nature is very well established, and I think the action scenes are great. I think the script is so interesting because it feels like a throwback to the 90s.
Yeah.
Which I guess is clearly what this movie is trying to do. It's just and it's quite nice and nostalgic to go back to a movie that is ticking every box on the trope tree as it falls down through it, and isn't interested in anyone who's dimensionalized or interesting beyond. There's a
I disagree, actually.
cool girl with drone and nerdy guy with glasses, and then
Okay, well those guys fine, but the central characters
no, I'm going to get to them
I
later.
don't think we'd have seen her quite like that in the
They're
90s.
okay, but there's a lot of, oh my god, it's so unbearable. Glenn Powell in this movie just like, what's going on, city girl? I suppose they don't have tornadoes like this in New York City. And then there is just like scene after scene of this
No, Glenn Powell.
painful.
In no other place in the world is there 40 tornadoes a day.
And I'm sorry, the thing I found I found every character in this for the most part. I did like Daisy Edgar Jones's character. She gives a very quiet and sort of confident performance, which I liked. Glenn Powell is charming and ridiculously hot.
Yeah.
Like you got to admit. Like,
it's ridiculous.
I'm a straight guy, but I was looking at him like, you just like, there's no one can look at that and say this is not a very hot man.
At one point he's wearing a white t-shirt that's gone completely see-through.
In the rain.
And it's just
he's walking, this is just pure like thirst trap for the audience. And like, look, fair play.
It works.
What was I going to say? Oh yeah, but I hated every character in this movie. I hated them because they're obnoxious and unbearable. This is like, imagine a truck full of people driving into a tornado every 3 seconds going, woo!
You're shouting.
Yeah! And then and they press a button in their truck and just go, oh yeah!
Yeah, but Dave.
Oh boy!
Have you seen?
Here we go!
I like, because there's an element to this plot where there's like YouTubers chasing the twisters, and like, have you seen YouTubers? And particularly the ones who do like stunts and annoying things. I felt like this
it's
was
authentic.
actually a good take. Like, who would be chasing a twister? Of course it would be a group of head-wrecking YouTubers. That makes sense.
But the way, okay, fine, but that's how they are introduced and established, and I think you're supposed to be on the side of Daisy Edgar Jones and the buttoned-up scientists who are like, look at these posers. But then the movie, I won't spoil it, but the movie then just takes a twist just to, twist and turns your expectations upside down, and that I want to talk about in Spoiler Street because it was absurd. So yeah, this movie's plot is creaky. It's just a throwback to a time in the 90s where these kind of po-faced disaster movies had so many common tropes that South Park was able to skewer them so easily in the early 2000s, like, what do you know, Mr. Scientist, and all this kind of stuff. And so it's kind of novel to be back there.
But I don't think.
But also, it's like
what this film is lacking that those movies all had really well is like a really good antagonist. I think this film was lacking that. Like, I wanted
twisters.
I want a meaty bad guy in my movies. Didn't get one.
Yes, I agree. There's a David Cornsweet is here, who's the new Superman, who is the closest thing you get to a sort of
and he's barely in it.
A guy,
yeah. Like, he could have done a lot more. The twisters cease to become the villain. Like, say if you're talking about Jaws, obviously the antagonist, the big one, is the shark. But like, he's a really big deal. But if you had 100 million sharks and they were just meeting multiples a day, does it, well,
I know what you mean,
foe that you're chasing.
But I thought that was fine because anytime it's like it's not like has to be one twister and it keeps coming back and it's like, oh no, it's that twister again. It's that same one. Like I'm fine with having multiple twisters because anytime there is a twister. And they make the sort of levels of them clear. They're level 1 to 5, and it's like, oh my god, this one's an EF5, and you get a sense of like, the danger of it. So I think they did a great job with establishing the threat of these things. The action scenes are very good and thrilling. It is
really good. And the final third act action.
Yeah, it's
brilliant.
Great.
Yeah,
and so and it's a good cinema movie. I had a great time at it, but I was laughing at it, and it was so bad to me. It was funny, but these characters, I couldn't get a grip on them. I hated them all. I found them cringy and painful.
I didn't find it that bad. I found it enjoyable / run of the mill, enhanced by its central performances, I would say. There is something that I saw before we went into the movie, and I will mention what I saw, and then we will come back to it on Spoiler Street. I saw a headline from the Hollywood Reporter which said, "Twisters reignites debate over steamy scenes in movies." So this is what I had in my head before I went into the movie, and I got quite excited. And
we're gonna talk about that.
We'll get to that after.
We're gonna take a very quick break here. You might hear an ad, and then we'll be back for Spoiler Street. All right, we're back now, and we're gonna turn on to Spoiler Street. Here it is. So spoilers now for the movie.
For the movie Twisters, and for this particular headline that I saw, which got me excited. I said to Dave during the film, there's going to be a huge sex scene in this film.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, that never happens anymore. And obviously, having seen the headline, I took it that way, particularly because Daisy Edgar Jones is brilliant and like very good at doing sex scenes, as we know from normal people.
Sorry,
So I was like,
ironically, our umbrella's about to blow
Yeah, our
away.
umbrella is
This is
literally-
actually, will you hold this
This
for
is
a
a
second?
stage 1
Oh my
tornado. So I said to Dave,
Oh my God,
well,
it's bending.
a lot of actors don't like doing sex scenes, but we know she kind of was in a breakout role where that happened, so I guess it makes sense. And I was like, we're waiting for the sex scene. Kept saying to Dave, the sex scene's coming, sex scene's
But
coming.
you said it was Chekhov's gun. Chekhov's sex scene. You set it up, and I was also like, anytime there's when she goes to her mom's house, and then Glenn Powell shows up like
We're like, oh, it's
a
coming.
creep, by
Yeah,
the way.
yeah,
like
total
just
creep.
follows her. He's stalking her.
Like, he
and
doesn't
then he's
even
like,
knock on the door, he's just in the shed with her.
and then she's like, what are you doing here? He's like, what's this? You got some science here? You want a bit of science? City girl? And she's like, don't look at my papers, you creep. You just come into my private space after hunting me down and
Yeah,
finding
fair.
and then her mom comes in and it's like and
liked
she's
her
like,
mom.
he's just leaving, and she's like, no, he's not. I've done up the guest bedroom because
And we're like, yes.
and we turn to each other, we're like, here we go. Sex scene at the mom's house.
Anyway, right up
And then
until
no,
the end,
instead he
right
just
up until
wakes
the
up the
end.
next morning and leaves in the soaking rain wearing a t-shirt. Well,
As the film went on and on, I was like, we're kind of past the point of a sex scene. It's probably going to happen like on top of the fad after they've conquered.
that's another time we thought.
Twister.
Yeah, after they get together and they go off and they attempt her. You know, they use the model and they attempt her thing and they have a very intimate moment.
Yeah.
I thought again we looked at each other like, here we go.
We sound like we're desperate for a sex scene. We're not. It's just that I had read this thing. Anyway, transpires. We get to the very end of the movie. There's no sex scene. They actually don't even kiss. Now, as
Which is, sorry, that was the moment my jaw was dropping on the floor as the credits rolled.
We're like,
and I was like, why did they not kiss? And I was just like, it's so interesting the times we're in, because this movie's throwing back to these tropey, stereotypical disaster movies of the 90s and basically using that template. But they'd always have a kiss at the end of the movie.
I mean,
What's
there'd be
up?
something, but now it's interesting because I obviously came straight out of the film and was like, wait, what the hell? What was that Hollywood Reporter article? It turns out the subheading of the article, which I hadn't read, was social media, because we don't like to read about movies before we see them. The subheading was social media has been abuzz over a key aspect of the on-screen relationship between Glenn Powell and Daisy Edgar-Jones, which I was like, yeah, sex scene. No.
Sexless.
Industry analysts are taking notice. It speaks to our deep conflict with intimacy. And if you read the article, it's interesting, they cite all this research about how Gen Z don't want to see intimacy on screen. So I find that very interesting for a few reasons.
Sorry,
So
go
first
on, yeah,
of
go
all,
on.
like, and just like, I guess we'll put an adult warning on this episode. Gen Z is first of all, they grew up with porn, readily available porn, right? I think that would have to play in somewhere where like they don't need it in movies. But what I think is another interesting point, and this article talks about loads about it, and like Steven Spielberg is the producer, and apparently they had filmed a kissing scene, because you'd expect the kissing scene, and then they decided to pull it because they didn't want Daisy Edgar-Jones's like plot to be sort of accumulated with the kiss. The plot is that she learns how to like destroy a twister, and I actually editorially agree with that decision. I think it was the right thing to do. I loved when she went out and she, in that final scene, which was brilliant in the cinema with her and Javi and Glenn Powell, and I just loved all that stuff.
But sorry,
And then
her line there was great as well. If you feel it, chase
if you feel
it.
it, chase
It's a good
it.
line. It's great. She turned his line around. I like
and
that.
then she goes out and actually destroys the twister herself, and now that isn't something we would have seen in the 90s, and then they don't kiss. So I actually like that angle on it. I just should have, now this is where you shouldn't even see headlines for movies you're going to go and see, because I spent so much of the movie being confused as to when this crazy sex scene was going to come in. So anyway, we were laughing our heads off at
But
that.
sorry, can I just comment on this?
You can, yeah.
So I agree with what you're saying, and I understand the intent, but I don't think taking away the kiss, achieves what they're trying to achieve. They had already achieved it, because this is her movie. She is squarely the protagonist.
Yeah.
She squarely is not doing anything throughout the movie to try and impress him or work to his agenda. You know, he's chasing her the whole movie. She comes up with the science. He just encourages her to tap back into her passion, and she defeats the twister solo. She does all this, so the movie, that in no way would that undermine her plot. And secondly, but also if you're worried that you want to distract from this being her movie or her plot, then don't put in any romantic chemistry or plot. If you're gonna put in the romantic chemistry and plot, then have that accumulate with a kiss, the natural endpoint of somebody who drills into an airport car park and does an airport dash.
No, but what I love
you
even
can't give
more-
us an airport dash without a
The
kiss.
airport bit was so fun. No, but I actually love the ending whereby they're like, your plane's going to be delayed for a few hours because of the weather, and then they just both turn and run because they're going off to chase another twister. And I like
it's kind of
that.
good, I guess.
Now, that's the stuff I like.
Can't they have had but it's fun. You just have to kiss, and then the announcement comes up, and then they run away.
I
So just give us a
know.
fucking
So
kiss.
I just think it's interesting debate. This is why I wanted to bring it up in the podcast, because it's like, is it like that people don't want intimacy? Was it just an editorial choice? Is it not worth a whole op-ed and think piece and global internet trends about the lack of a kiss?
Look,
I don't know.
Also, I don't know. I haven't read this
It's
article.
so
but
windy, by the way. We're actually in a twister because like we like to film. We like to record things as they should
It's
be
so
done.
bad.
And we're inside a twister right now.
Perhaps it is true that that Gen Z study, and they say whatever it was, they're less interested in sex or whatever on screen. But like, this is a 4-quadrant movie. This isn't just a Gen Z movie, right?
Yeah, but
this
the other thing is,
and
we
this
don't-
should have broad mainstream
Yeah,
appeal.
but nobody
and
cares if it is a sex scene or not. It's just that we went in.
No, I don't. No, I'm not talking about a sex scene. I'm talking about a kiss. I'm talking about, like, that is the thing that shocked me. I was shocked that there was no sex scene only because you had told me there was a sex scene under the table,
And I had
was
said
waiting
like
for
a
it.
filthy sex scene.
Like if you and when you said that to me, I said that is incredibly surprising because you don't get sex scenes in movies anymore.
Yeah, you don't.
So-
There's also stats in that same article about like how much sex on screen. Anyway, it has dropped in a general sense. Right, we're going to stop talking about that now. What do we want to talk about in terms of like the motivation of Javi and the bad guy? I think I really liked Javi as a character. I think the bad guy wasn't bad enough. Like in reality.
Do you mean the real estate guy
Like, I
or
just
David
thought-
Corrin Sweat's guy?
Any of it, like that's where I was like, this is lacking for me. Like I
I agree,
understand
I agree.
Javi's like, I'm taking funding from these guys, they're a bit dodgy because he wants to do his research. I think the plot of all their friends dying and her boyfriend dying at the beginning was very well done.
Yes,
but like the
it
bad
was,
guy
it
just
was.
kind of snuck around and gave a few business cards, you know?
But then he disappeared halfway through the movie.
Yeah, like
and
we
so
needed
he
a
wasn't
show-
he wasn't a bad guy.
Like we got a mini showdown between Javi and the other Superman bad guy when Javi like drives off and covers him in dirt, and that was fun. Like everyone cheered.
Oh, yeah.
But that just felt like it needed to be something bigger than that.
I'm
Do you know
sorry,
what I mean?
it didn't make a lick of sense.
Yeah.
Because Javi, okay, so they're out here and they're chasing these tornadoes, right? And the goal, nominally, is to get enough data to prevent this from happening in the future. Now,
So Javi's goal was to make better warning systems.
yes, exactly.
Her goal was to prevent.
Her goal was to do something
kill them.
to literally stop them in their tracks.
Yeah.
Both worthwhile goals,
Yeah.
which would have, and I know that Javi ended up compromising himself with a real estate guy, but nonetheless, that was his goal and her goal, both justifiable. Then they're out there trying to achieve these goals, which would have monumental international impact.
Well, no, just
for-
the state of Oklahoma needs this.
Oh yeah, just the state of Oklahoma. But this would have like decades-long science that is incredibly valuable, that would save lives in the future, and then suddenly it becomes, wait, we have to turn around because there's people in that town who need our help right now, and that's what the plot of the movie suddenly becomes. The whole thing is like, this is about helping people. But hang on, no, you were helping people, but on a mass scale. That was your objective. You're not firefighters.
Yeah.
There are emergency services his entire job is to evacuate people. But no, it's like these people just run to this town, as does, YouTuber Glenn Powell, who half an hour into the movie turns out isn't about YouTube, it is about actually giving food and drink and
but that
selling
made no
t-shirts
sense.
for profits.
Because they
And
said
it's
we're
just
paying
like,
for the food to the villagers by selling these t-shirts. Isn't like,
it's
wait,
like, what are you talking
Yeah.
about? What is your objective? My objective is just to find. Did you find that person's dog? Of course I found that dog. Because I'm Glenn Powell and I come in and I save this
I
town.
agree with
And
you,
I'm sorry,
like-
so there's not a fire person to be seen, no fire services, no rescue services, just a group of scientists and a guy in a YouTube truck coming in telling everyone, by the way, after the warning system has already kicked off. So the warning system goes off and then they come in and say, guys, there's a tornado coming, you got to get inside.
Okay,
And
we're in a tornado pandemic, right? I mean,
it is on the news non-stop.
It's on the news non-stop. No one seems to have built themselves like air raid shelters or like
No,
underground
the
cover.
rodeo must continue. We are going to schedule this rodeo for the middle of the worst
when the siren
tornado
goes off,
system.
When the siren goes off, nobody kind of does anything, and then the sirens go off as the twisters are starting,
Yeah,
right?
it's like, what a terrible
However,
warning system.
in the
If
movie-
only there was a scientist who could create better data to improve warning systems.
The movie's defense, when we get a small glimpse of the motel scene where they're like, the tornado's coming, and actually someone says, but the warnings are always going off and then we don't have tornadoes, which would speak to the fact that you kind of need people on the ground saying, no, this is actually a tornado, because no one listens to the warnings.
Sure.
And then they're telling that couple, who obviously blatantly deserve to die immediately because of their carry on, they say to the couple,
Absurd.
don't get in your car, come with us, we're going to go underground, and they kind of hide under a pool that's got no water in it. So it does actually, that scene, and they save a mother and her child, and like that scene does speak to the sense of purpose that like Daisy Edgar Jones would have, of like, I can actually help people.
But
Like,
can
do you know what I mean?
Go on.
But like, but also I agree with you. It's farcical that there's no like that actually. It's farcical that anyone's living in Oklahoma anyway at the moment, because like we cannot describe how many twisters are happening on an hourly basis in Oklahoma in this movie.
Yeah, and life continues as normal. Everyone's just out playing softball, and
Yeah.
it's like literally like 3 minutes after the softball game, and everyone's at the cinema. It's just like, oh, let's go out and see this Frankenstein 1920s movie in the middle of a
But what I don't understand
tornado
is
season.
If it's basically like the Blitz in London, right? And I find they don't have like underground like metro trains there out in Oklahoma, but like, why is no one building underground shelters? Like, there's nothing. There's nowhere for anyone to go when these tornadoes happen.
What would really help is, right, so what's more beneficial here? Providing everyone the data and the information and the mass education systems as to what to do in a tornado. 1, do not get in your car. 2, find a swimming pool and hold on to stuff. Like, this is the kind of stuff that somebody in a position of power, perhaps working for a meteorological commission in New York, would be able to produce this level of, right? No, it's better to just drive into a tornado,
Yeah.
then stop
Yeah.
and have a debate, an ethical debate about, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
That's going to a town. We've got to go to that town and help people on an individual basis, and maybe we could save the life of one person.
We need 9 of us to go into cinema and tell everyone to get to the back of the cinema.
Get to the back of the cinema. I was like, what? You guys are not helping.
But
This
that
is not
moment-
your role.
Okay, I agree with you and all that, but you have to park it now. In that moment when they went into the cinema, realised there was nowhere in the town for anyone to go, and they said, this, like, everyone's going to die. And then Daisy Edgar Jones goes out in the truck. Like, that was so good.
Oh, it's awesome. It's great
And I love
cinema,
that
but it
she's
is,
like,
it's stupid. It
she's
is
invented
deeply
a system
stupid.
where you shoot water? I couldn't quite figure it out, into a tornado.
Well, you wouldn't understand, City Girl, but it's a whole bit of hokum homegrown science. You just gotta get the sodium hydrochloride to
Yeah.
produce the rain to give you enough moisture
She was awesome.
to then release
Yeah.
the.
And I like that Javi had more of a part than I kind of originally thought he was going to have. Do you know what it was, actually, speaking on the lack of intimacy? It was like the world's most celibate love triangle.
Oh my God! Yeah, imagine. Like we came from 20 years ago. We had Twilight, right? Pretty sexless as well, but like a pretty like famous love triangle, for
Yeah.
instance. That's mainstream.
I mean,
now we're down to sort
Are
of.
you talking about Twilight?
you get a
That's the golden era of cinema.
You get a moment here where Haffy's like, she's about to go into the motel room, and he's like, maybe we could maybe hang out
And she's like,
for
nah.
5 minutes, and she's like, nah. And I think we're supposed to imply that he's always loved her.
I think he's always
It's
loved
just
her,
like,
yeah.
but like you're right. It's just
Yeah.
so lame and
Yeah.
sexless. Anyway,
we
sorry.
had a good time though.
I
we
just
did have a good
do you
time.
know the people who I hated the most were like fireworks guy, drone girl, scientist guy with the Fisher hat, and his whole team were so annoying. I hated them all.
Yeah.
And then the British journalist sort of comedy stereotype. It was just embarrassing. Just the hollering and the whooping and also, sorry, the thing that drove me nuts
They did say
from
it's
everybody.
hillbillies, but they did say it's hillbillies with a YouTube channel. Like, and that kind of worked as the description.
Sure, but like, I mean, just like, I don't want to see these people, and then they just try to dimensionalize them and make them the good guys halfway through, and I was just like, but then also, sorry, both parties were ridiculous in their in their road safety in the middle, like trying to cut each other off. The scientists and the YouTubers were both trying to do this in the middle of hurricanes. It's just like, what are you doing here? This is incredibly unsafe.
Dave, at this point you've gone over the line into just like being an old man.
I just couldn't get on board with anyone's
Back in my day,
actions
vampires and werewolves had love triangles. Right. Yes, I agree the road safety was poor. Do I take road safety lessons from Twisters, the movie? Absolutely not.
It was fun to watch.
And look, next time I see a tornado, I know what to do. You know, lock my truck into the ground and blow some smoke
I
up
thought
its
that was
ass.
awesome. I loved the drill into the ground. What a great
really
idea.
Fun, yeah.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed all that stuff. And I know you hated the journalist character, but I enjoyed it being like a bit of a nerd, kind of in that situation, experiencing it from like a normal person's point of view, to kind of ground it.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you everyone for listening. Let us know what you thought about Twisters, the movie, and do you think we should go back and watch Twister? Is it worth a comparative piece? Come over to @thecinema on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all those places, or send us an email to thecinema@gmail.com.
And thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Was that it? Nope.